So yeah, I'm Sean Brocklehurst and I'm the Socialist Alliance candidate for the seat of Pascoe Vale. I'm running on a platform of community need, not corporate greed. And I think in terms of agriculture, as the other speakers have mentioned, this is quite a pertinent slogan. In Australia, we have market duopoly. We've got the Coles and Woolies duopoly over agriculture, over food distribution, food production, which has squeezed out for small farmers, made them unable to get a good price for their produce, and has also squeezed out small shopkeepers and events such as farmers markets like this, made it harder, as well as a variety of other people, and it's just made it overwhelmingly harder for small shopkeepers and farmers to actually be able to operate. So that's kind of the problem that we see in Australia today, is we've got this corporate duopoly which has complete control over the market. So our priority should actually be towards sustaining our natural resources. You can't have agriculture if there's no water. You can't have agriculture if you've taken away all the natural resources that give you the ability to actually sustain that. So we need to make sure that our agricultural system, which at the moment is an industrialised system, using industrialised fertilisers, relying on fossil fuels, we need to move that away from that system to one based on sustainability. So that means organic farming, that means using natural practices, and that means using the different practices that they have so that you can farm in a level of harmony with the natural environment, so that it's naturally supporting of the environment itself, as well as the natural environment and supporting the food production. So Socialist Alliance, we support co-ops, farmers markets. We support all different types of alternatives to the major supermarket chains and their system of producing food. We're for a variety of options and choice in this area. As I've said before, we support organic farming practices. We need to change the way that we grow food and the way that food production is related to the environment around it. So more support needs to go into this sector, in education, in material and resource support for farmers to transition to a different type of agricultural production. So we're against genetically modified food. It hasn't been properly tested. We don't know if it's safe. We don't know exactly what effect it will have on our own crops and our own plants. There's been plenty of evidence from countries overseas, including the US, that it's not exactly safe. And there's also been problems where genetically modified food, because it's so controlled by major companies, if some of the wheat or part of the crops get blown into a neighbouring farmer's field, and then that starts to grow, the genetically modified crop, that farmer can get sued by the company that owns the crop, because they're stealing the seed, they're stealing it. And we don't want that in Australia. We don't want that sort of thing to happen. We need to make sure that it's actually safe before we bring it in. And it needs to be properly labelled if you get it from overseas as well. There needs to be labelling on all products of whether they're genetically modified or not. So we need to provide more support, and we actually need a comprehensive plan for agriculture. Relying on the free market to do it for us isn't actually going to work. We need a large-scale government investment in this sector, especially with climate change bearing down upon us. We need to change the way that we do things. We can't rely upon business as usual. We need to plan suburban gardens on a mass scale, and so that we don't have to transport our food over long distances using more fuel to transport it from A to B. We need local food production in our local areas, as well as large-scale food production. We can't just rely upon the old way of doing things. And this will do exactly what's happening today, providing fresh food and vegetables to those who need it in our local communities, and we need this especially in lower socioeconomic areas where, in general, they don't have the ability to afford fresh food and vegetables every week, and we need to be able to provide that at a cheaper cost for ordinary people, at the same time as providing a good price for the farmers who grow it. As I mentioned before, because we have climate change bearing down upon us, and it's not just coming, it's here right now, it's already impacting on us. Our farming system needs to be both sustainable, but also has to have the ability to adapt to the changing climate that we have. It's getting warmer. As it's mentioned, there's going to be less rainfall. We can't keep pumping water out of the Murray River and just expecting it to keep on going forever. I'm originally from South Australia. That's had a disastrous impact on us down there. there, with the Murray Mouth closing ever tighter over the years. We need to actually change the way in which that's done entirely. And there are some examples of this having been done across the world where they've entirely changed their food production system, gotten rid of fossil fuels in the food production process, gotten rid of fertilizers that use fuel in that, and also changing the way that they use water in that process. So that's what we're for as Socialist Alliance. We also have a policy sheet here as well. If you want to get more information on the specifics, we've got a bunch of these there, and I can have a chat afterwards. If you've got any questions or anything else, come have a chat to me afterwards. So, community need, not corporate greed. Vote for Sean Brocklehurst in the state election, and also get active and get involved in the different campaigns, including there's a Climate Action Moreland stall over there, there's a Moreland Community Against the East-West Link stall over there, and also a Socialist Alliance one. So come over and say hi.
Thanks very much, Sean Brocklehurst.